And we're live.
Don't worry, guys. I won't be in G.I. Jane 2, okay? So nobody's slapping anybody here today. Okay.
Did you hear Will Smith got canceled? Like, they actually stopped his production on his movies and stuff.
Yeah, I heard that. Well, shoot, as long as nobody's slapping me, I'm cool with it. If I was Chris Rock, it would have been a different story. But anyway, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in until the point with
Skip.
and the King. You guys know what to do. Go down there, click subscribe, click like. We're still giving away this Raptors 2. Once we get to our 400 subscriber, we still have many more giveaways after that. So keep it going, guys. We appreciate you guys on the last video, sending your love, all the views. It's amazing that you guys can actually take part and comment with us and enjoy our fantabulous, yeah, I said it, fantabulous guests that come on the show. Especially today, we have Nick Nurse's doppelganger, the one and only Coach Roache, Tim Roache. How are you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm good, and I love that. I always love the Nick Nurse doppelganger jokes. I get him quite a bit, and I'm just like, yeah, I see it. I actually do see that we do look a little bit like. For the record, people, we're not related at all. I'm an East Coast Canadian. He's from Iowa. I don't think there's any connection at all.
Go on ancestry.ca. Maybe you'll find something else.
You never know.
Right? So, guys, let's get into this. Last night, we witnessed the GROAT, the greatest Raptor of all time. Number 7. Yeah, show it, Skip. Number 7. Man that led your Toronto Raptors to a championship. Some people argue it might be number 2. But no, it was number 7 that led it. He set the culture. He took care of this team. Him and his brother, DeMar, you know, they really, because of his contributions, led to that championship, which is why we are all here. Now, Tim, I got to ask you, as a Canadian from the East Coast, who's now in the GTA, how emotional were you seeing Kyle Lowry return to Toronto for the first time to suit up against the Raptors?
It's a surreal moment when you have the greatest franchise player come back to your team for the first time. That first game is usually quite a surreal moment. I remember when we acquired Kyle Lowry, you know, Brian Colangelo pulled off the deal, and at the time it's like, oh yeah, he's up and coming point guard, and you know, we think he'll do great things. I think he has surpassed those expectations when all the All-Star appearances, you know, he helped deliver us a championship, and he's got to be the charge leader for taking charges in Raptor history, especially in the last decade for sure, from individual standpoint. In terms of last night, the tribute that they gave to him, nothing wrong with the tribute. I felt they could have done more. That was all. You know, he's the greatest player in franchise history. And I remember when Kawhi came back and they had the little ring ceremony for him, and Masai was on the court. I believe Larry Tannenbaum was on the court as well. I actually was expecting something like that for Kyle Lowry. Maybe a presentation of just, you know, just to show our appreciation to him and what he's meant to basketball, not only in Toronto, but, you know, as you'd mentioned, on the East Coast as well, to all point guards out there, to all basketball players out there, really in general.
Can I just jump in? Sorry, can I just jump in and say one thing? That's coming. All that stuff is coming. That happens after he retires. Last night just wasn't the night for that. And I think in my head, I sort of had it built up as well. And I just don't think last night was the night to make that move. That there will be a ceremony where, you know, the owner's on the court, Masai's on the court, they're hanging his jersey from the Raptors. But that happens after he hangs up the cleats, right? Or the sneakers.
Eventually. But go on, Tim.
Yeah.
No, so just from that standpoint, I just felt they could have done a little bit more. I was great that they had his 2 sons with him at center court with him, waved to the crowd. That was fantastic. I thought I was off to a really good start. But, you know, kind of like what Skip said, maybe that's coming after, you know, when he retires, retirement ceremony, because we kept seeing all these images and videos about this statue outside Toronto, or if it's outside the building or what it was. I didn't know if it was real or if it was fake, but it looked cool either way. And I just think that Kyle Lowry, whatever they do decide for a final lasting tribute to him, like, he deserves the best of the best, in my opinion, just for what he's done for basketball, for the Toronto Raptors, for the province of Ontario, first for all of Canada in general. Because we only have one NBA team, you affect the whole entire country. And Kyle Lowry has had a lasting impact on basketball in this country. There's no doubt. And he will for generations to come. As just as Vince Carter did for me and my generation, just as Chris Bosh did for the next generation, Kyle Lowry's going to have that same kind of impact for the way that he played on the court, the way that he's conducted himself in the greater Toronto area. And I get to say, too, that we both have degrees from the same university, too, because he's got his doctorate from Acadia University, shout out, and I have a degree from there as well. So I get to have something in common with the
some brotherhood.
Got some brotherhood. That's right.
Right? Same alma mater.
Yeah.
Skip, I got to ask you a question, my man. With Kyle Lowry returning last night, he impacted the game.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the way he impacted that game? Because I know over the last, how many years have I known you? I've never seen you really take off that Kyle Lowry shirt. So how did you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I kind of want to get into the whole thing about whether it was a disappointment or not. Just real quick. I'm going to get to the
feelings.
game. Yeah, I think, look, we always expect so much when people come back for a return, a big triumphant return. And it always kind of doesn't quite live up to our expectations. I think you got to just kind of understand that these guys are still out there doing a job. I think what really showed that it was a really special night was the whole song and dance, the whole pregame ceremony. The fact that he showed up in an Escalade, in a suit, like with a championship ring, like, and he did the whole, like, and his media availability, he was super genuine. He was super real. Like, I think people compare it to like Vince coming back, right? But I think if you just go beyond Raptors land, obviously I come from baseball. I think the best comparison is like when Roy Halladay came back with the Phillies in, I guess it was 2011, it would have been. And that was a big, like, same kind of thing. But I don't remember Roy Halladay showing up in like a Blue Jays jersey or anything like that. Like, he was there to pitch a game. Like, he tipped his hat to the crowd. Lowry was there. Like, he was like, this is my home. This is like, he was like having emotional interviews. Like, he was real out there. Like, he wanted to make this night special. Like, no, I mean, he meant it. And I think that's what's more important. Like, we're worried about the song and dance, like what that game ops is going to do. Like, that's all cool and all. But what does the player actually feel? Does the player actually really care about the bond he has with the city? And I think you could say that way more for Lowry than Halladay, way more for Lowry than even when Jose Bautista came back. Like, I had to look up Jose Bautista's return game because I couldn't even remember it. Like, obviously he got a standing O. Like, he was a legendary Toronto athlete, but Lowry's just kind of on that next pantheon, and I think that came through last night. Now, as for the game itself, I thought it was interesting because I think the first half, we're watching the game and we're sort of like, all right, Lowry's back, it's cool, everything kind of settles down, the Raptors are going to take control. Heat are on a back-to-back, the Raptors are going to take care of business. So the first half, the Raptors were doing their thing, the Heat weren't really getting much going. And then I think something shifted the beginning of the third quarter. So I don't exactly know when this happened in the game, but there was a point in the game early in the third quarter where there was the Heat forced a turnover on the Raptors, and Lowry got a breakaway layup. And there was just that moment in my heart of hearts. That was the first time all game that I was like, man, it's Lowry's night. He deserved that. Because up to then I was like, yeah, he's still on the other team. Like, whatever. If he makes a shot, whatever. As soon as he got that breakaway dunk, my heart just kind of went, oh, that's Lowry though. And I think the Raptors kind of did the same thing, like just a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. Like, there was just sort of this little bit of a letdown in the second half where they're like, oh yeah, it's Lowry's night. Like, we can't play serious. We can't play hard. I mean, obviously they were playing hard. Not that they're not playing hard, but there's just that little subtle like letdown in the back of your mind. And I think on the other hand, Lowry was like, man, this is my night. I got to win this game. And the competitive Lowry kicked in again. And he was out there. He was setting up his teammates. He was creating a really pass-heavy offense. He was setting guys up for three. I don't know exactly how many assists he had off the top of my head, but he was really 10 assists. Yeah. So and there were lots of like hockey passes too on top of that. So he wasn't like, he's not the guy who was raining threes. Like that was Oladipo, that was Max Strus. But he's the guy who's setting up that next play to make that happen. And we saw Lowry, probably it was a benefit for him that Jimmy Butler wasn't in the lineup for that game, because he could kind of not run things per se, but he could exert his influence over the game a little bit more than if a Jimmy Butler's in the game, for example.
Yeah, you're right. You know what, guys? Me, not being a Raptors fan, until they get rid of the ambassador, right?
You mean Lowry's good buddy?
Whatever. It was absolutely great to watch Kyle Lowry return to Toronto to play against the Raptors for the first time since being traded. Even I got a little emotional. I didn't cry, but even that, it hit me in my heart. I was like, oh man, this guy brought a championship to Toronto, our first basketball championship. You know, he's done so much for the city. Like he means, like you said, Tim, he means so much to the city, so much to the country. And the sport of basketball, all the younger players that have been coming up through the Canadian system, like when we look at some of these guys, you think they really would have been there if it wasn't for Kyle Lowry, with what he's done and how he has basically put Toronto on the map with that championship. I think it was absolutely amazing to see him come back. I'm glad that he didn't cry. I enjoyed his presser at the beginning. I enjoyed his presser at the end, and I did enjoy DeMar calling him. I was watching it on SportsCenter. You guys, I can't find it anywhere online, but it's not on SportsCenter, ladies and gentlemen. And DeMar calling him during the presser. It was amazing to see him come back to the Toronto Raptors. Now, guys, he has been on, this is now his fourth team, Houston, Memphis, Toronto, and now Miami. But over the span of his career as a Raptor, how much of an impact has he had, and how much of an impact has he learned prior to coming to Toronto, and what he's bestowing on the younger guys now in Miami? How do you guys feel about that?
Tim, I'll let you go. Yeah,
I think he was all a part of this culture change, like when Dwayne Casey came in and DeMar was starting to develop. So certainly you definitely see the impact in which he's had on a Fred VanVleet, on a Pascal Siakam, an OG Anunoby, Norm Powell, some of these younger guys that were coming up with the Raptors 4 or 5 years ago. And we're starting to see the benefits of what it's like to have a good floor general and a good leader in the locker room, because that rubs off on everybody else. You know how to practice hard. You know how to prepare for games. You know how to take care of your body. That's important in the NBA, as it is for, any high level of basketball. So these guys get a front row seat of picking this guy's brain for the last 4 or 5 years. And just to see how competitive he is, I think it was noted in the tribute video yesterday, how Nick Nurse said he's the hardest working player I've ever coached. That's going to rub off when your leader is your hardest working player. That rubs off on everybody else. And not that I know who that would be today. I'm going to take a guess. Maybe it's Fred or Pascal to a degree, just because as they've been there the longest. He's, before Kyle Lowry showed up, we had 1 playoff series win, whole franchise. We've had 9 since he's shown up, right? And
interesting,
just that kind of impact that carries forward into the next teams that will come along for the Toronto Raptors as you build that culture, as you cement or I should say maybe establish winning, which they have, from the first round to the second round, the conference final, and then eventually they got to a championship. And that championship pedigree is still there with the guys that are left right now. He has, I was looking up some stats earlier, he's second all time in points in Toronto Raptor history. He has the highest offensive win shares. He has the highest defensive win shares, and he has the highest overall win shares, and it's not even close. You can look it up. So this guy,
and he's also second in 3-pointers.
And he's now second in
after
3-pointers
as
of last night, because Fred did pass him, and kudos to Fred for doing that.
That was a season stat, though. I haven't looked up the career numbers.
Yeah, I think Lowry holds the career number of threes, but Fred does have the 3-point season single record. But just wanted to cap off just by saying that it's so hard to measure how much impact he's had on this team, because I don't think you can measure it. It's just too much to measure. Is what I'm saying. The impact on and off the court that he has had with this franchise, with this city, and with this country basketball.
Skip?
Well, as far as the impact,
obviously he's had a major impact on you.
Yeah.
Clearly see that.
His impact, I would say 3 words. Larry O'Brien. I mean, let's be real. That's what happened. He's the guy who took us to the top of the mountain, right? And I think I do agree that with some of the people online who are saying, like, yeah, maybe he's not. Maybe we're getting this narrative blown a little bit out of proportion in terms of, like, he was this perfect leader, angel character. Like, no, Lowry was a bit of a dick. He showed up. He was a problem child when he showed up. And Dwayne Casey just channeled that problem child energy onto the floor. And he became this icon of the franchise. And he is going to retire the best Raptor of all time, unless a Pascal or a Fred eventually passes him. But I don't assume that's going to happen. Or Scotty. I mean, that's Scotty should still be in his prime long after Lowry retires. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. As of right now, he's the best Raptor of all time. He's done. He put in the work. That's the thing. He put in the work. He logged the years. He was there through thick and thin. He saw us climb up that mountain and get up over on the other side, which is something we had never done as a franchise before. So absolutely has a huge impact, just as a franchise icon. And I don't really want to get into the locker room stuff. Like, I don't know too much about who's an actual leader, who's not a leader. But as far as the guy who bridged the gap between DeMar and Kawhi, the guy who was just there when we needed him to be there, and he just has a bond with that franchise, and he's going to go down in history as a Raptor, and that's the most important thing, I think.
You know what's funny, guys? I was looking up the numbers. I don't know if we can pull this up, but his career as a Raptor, his championship season as a Raptor, even right now, his current season in Miami, his numbers are virtually identical. It's only a little bit off here and there. He's been very consistent, very, very consistent. And you know what, man, Skip, you were talking about, you guys were talking about how he could be a dick sometimes. Skip, you weren't there that night while we were working at that establishment, but it was before he re-signed his contract with the Raptors. It was like the day before, and everyone's thinking that he's leaving. He came to the takeout counter and he had his hoodie on, right? And I could see him from the kitchen where I'm cooking him his food. And I yelled out, I was like, "Oh, so you get one more before you leave? Before you leave us?" Remember that? Raheem told me, our buddy Raheem told me, and I was like, I told him that next day he got signed. A couple guys that we worked with were like, "D, did you have anything to do with that?" I was like, "I didn't broke the deal. I didn't make any money. I just said it. You can have one more before you leave us." You know, and I'm glad that he stayed to break that championship, because that championship season, Skip, that's when we started to the point. Mm-hmm. And that was the year you and I were everywhere. We were at the parade. We went down to the Scotiabank Arena. I made that joke because Kyle Lowry did call it the ACC in his presser.
Did he? Right? Oh, I missed that. But yeah, of course he did.
Yeah. He said he was there, and then Scotiabank going to give him money. He was like, am I going to get any of that? That's exactly what he said. But he has been a major part of this organization, a major part of that championship run, a major part of Toronto being put on the map, especially after what Vince Carter did. But, guys, sorry, Skip, you going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, I have it on my mind because Miami was here last night, but Lowry is to Toronto what Dwayne Wade is to Miami. Essentially.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
That is very good. That is very good. But, guys, we were talking about the tribute there. And do you think maybe you guys as Raptors fans have too high of an expectation for that tribute? Like, what do you guys want? Fireworks? A unicorn? What do you want?
I definitely have had higher expectations for the tribute. But it's not to say that I'm kind of putting down the tribute. I thought it was fine. I just think it's the greatest Raptor of all time. I just thought maybe they could have done a little bit more.
You wanted them to unveil the statue while he was going to play for the other team, like the same night.
if there was an actual statue,
I don't even know. We'll have to go down. We'll have to go down to Scotiabank and check it out one of these days.
I know.
Skip, you want to go tomorrow? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll meet you down there. I'll sit on the back of your bike.
Yeah. Anyway, like it was fun, man. And like I said, the thing that mattered was that Kyle cared. I don't care about the song and dance. The thing that mattered is that Kyle cared, and Kyle really wanted that. And obviously, we don't even know what's going on with his mom. Like that's a whole subplot of this whole season that no one's really brought out in public. But he's been going through some personal stuff, and it's got to feel great for him to come home and to get that reception. Even if I agree, like I thought the crowd was gonna be cheering the whole game for him, like every time he touched the ball. Like that didn't really happen, but that's fair. Like these are still competitive games. Like you don't want to throw off your own team. We're still a playoff team. It's not like maybe you do that if we're in the Detroit Pistons spot or something. But right now we're just like we're trying to win games. So like clearly the crowd was on the Raptors side once the tip off happened. But in general, I think it was a great night. I was happy with it. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, but like, what can you really do? Like I said, when the Blue Jays players came back, when Danny Green hasn't come back. That's coming up this week.
That's coming up this week. Yep.
When Serge came back, I mean, that was awkward when Serge came back. No one was in the building. But yeah, when Kawhi came back, when these guys come back, like it's never quite as big as you think it's going to be. Just a nice little tribute, and this was just a little step beyond that, which I think is huge for his legacy as a Raptor. And yeah, I don't know what else I have to say really.
That's the key word, legacy. Tim, how do you feel about Kyle Lowry's legacy? Like, it's gonna, like you said earlier, it's gonna go on for decades. Like, there's probably kids out there who are gonna be like in their 40s, right? 40 years from now, after I'm dead and gone, saying, you know, like, oh, Kyle Lowry's the greatest, you know, greatest Raptor of all time, the best player. You know, they might have like throwback jerseys wearing it. Do you think his legacy is that of an importance to this franchise on the level of other players to their franchises, such as Dwayne Wade to Miami, Jordan to the Bulls, Kobe to LA, Patrick Ewing to New York, Reggie to Indiana, like certain players like that.
Don't forget Dirk.
Dirk to Dallas, yeah. Yeah, do you think he's on that level in that pantheon of these gentlemen that what they mean that much to the franchise and the fan base?
I think he does as of now. The Raptors are how old's the franchise? 26, 27 years old. And, you know, I hope Lowry will be in the Hall of Fame someday as a Raptors fan. We'll see when that time comes. But I think kind of what Skip said about that comparison of what Dwayne Wade means to Miami, I think you can make that argument that Kyle Lowry means the same to the Toronto Raptors. And that legacy, though, that Lowry will have, unlike Wade, is the impact that he's going to have across the country. I just happened to tune into the All-Canadian BioSteel game to see who's coming up in the next few years in the college ranks in the NBA. And of course, I don't know this answer, but I can almost guarantee that most of those kids playing were impacted by Kyle Lowry of some sort, especially within the last few years since they've won the championship.
Delano Banton, like right there.
Exactly, Delano Banton. Yeah. And I always like to point back to what's the one moment that stands out for me with Kyle Lowry. And that's game 6 of the NBA Finals when they played Golden State. He played fantastic in that game. And I don't know if they win that game without Kyle Lowry. I remember he went off in the first quarter and second quarter with all of his 3-pointers made. I think he had an interesting series because that's when he crashed into the fan and they pushed him and stuff like that. So there's a little bit extra motivation to go back to Golden State and do what he did. But I kind of think of that moment as really cementing his legacy in terms of, yes, he brought the championship, but they don't win that game without Kyle Lowry. What he did in game 6 against Golden State. I don't think they do. And then you go back to a game,
championship.
You go to a game 7, anything can happen in game 7. Although I do think we would have won because it would have been back in Toronto.
I don't know about that. I think we were in trouble. If we lost 2 games going into game 7, we would have been in trouble.
I trust the Toronto crowd to get us through that and the players.
I think the interesting thing about his legacy is that he's not someone who's going to have a memorable shot per se. I mean, if you were to say a memorable shot, it would be that run up the court and take the above the break 3. But he doesn't really have. It's not like one play that cements him in your mind, like with Kobe over Jordan. It's sort of just the all around thing. It's the way that he felt the court, the way that he did a lot of little things. And his numbers, like people would blast him in the playoffs for having 0-point games, but he would still be out there with like a positive plus minus. Like, so he's all over the place in terms of what you think of him as his legacy. And so he might not be as long lasting in that sense because he's not going to have that definitive thing that you think of him for, but he's just going to be he's just that guy, that glue guy that held the franchise together for so long. And he'll be remembered for that for a long time.
It's like I said, Skip, consistency earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had the consistency. Guys, this has been a great conversation. I'm pretty sure that we can go on forever and ever and ever and ever about this one. But I got to go film G.I. Jane too.
Watch out. We'll get canceled, man.
Don't slap me, please. Don't slap me. No, I don't want no slap.
No slappings here.
Right. Thank you, Tim. I mean, Nick Nurse's doppelganger. Coach Roache, one and only Tim Roache. Thank you for coming back on. This has been a pleasure. We love having you on anytime you want. Just call me, right? Skip, you suck. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking as usual. You guys go find Skip at simonbroder.com, amazon.ca. Buy the book, Running the Point. If you don't, you suck. You guys go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. We're still waiting for 400. This is yours. Smoke-free, pet-free zone, okay? And it's all yours. We're very close. We thank you guys so much for watching us. Tim, we thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Glad to have you on anytime. So on behalf of myself, Skip, and Nick Nurse's doppelganger, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
peace.